I recently sat down with documentarian Amy Berg. Take a look.
Janis, Little Girl Blue. I was so surprised to learn that a project of this magnitude had never been made before. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a complicated deal to put together because Janis wrote a lot of her own music, and then she collaborated with other artists on her songs, and she did a lot of cover songs, and there's finding all the original archive material. It's just a major thing. And then there were contracts with. There are some fiction projects some narrative projects, I should say, in development. So there are just lots of different elements.
8 years in the making to get this done. Yeah. How did you remain committed to this project? Were there times when you thought to yourself, I don't know if this is ever going to happen?
Oh my God. After the first 2 years, this initial deal kind of fell apart. And I could not listen to Janis for a while. And I love her, and I just could not listen to her music.
You were heartbroken.
I was heartbroken because you put so much for me, I put so much into whatever I do. And this was just something that I was so passionate about. And then it came back around, and so I've been trying to hold it up for a while. There have been plenty of times where I thought it was never going to happen, and it was, but somehow there was like something kept pushing me forward.
What do you think that was? Maybe the spirit of Janis?
Maybe. I mean, I felt like I kind of owed it to her. I knew her so well at that point, and I knew what I wanted to do with the film. So I think that maybe there was something like that.
Now, her estate approached you. Is there any hesitation when you get a call from the Janis Joplin estate and they say, we want you to work on this project? Do you say to yourself, I don't know, or do you immediately say, yes, sign me up?
Well, it wasn't like they approached me directly. They were meeting with filmmakers at the time, and they had decided that they wanted to share the archive with a documentary filmmaker. So I went in knowing what they had, or hearing about what they had. I hadn't seen it yet, and I looked at some of the letters, and I was just really captivated, and I had a lot of passion in my pitch, obviously, because they liked my vision and they thought I was the right person. So.
Let's talk about those letters. When you have a treasure trove like that, hundreds of them to choose from, how do you go about extracting which ones will help shape the narrative of the story you're trying to tell?
Well, it changed, throughout the process because it was dependent on the rest of the film. But I knew there were themes to all the letters, and so I kind of knew what I wanted them to say based on what I had, but really when I got the archive material and I had to find the marriage of her words and her performances and what her friends were saying about her. So it was just about a thematic marriage.
And how do you go about telling a story of this magnitude? Because obviously, she's an icon. She's one of the most important figures in music history. Where do you begin?
Well, it did start with the letters, I have to say. I knew that, obviously she died when she was 27, and the most poignant letter for me in the early days was that letter she wrote to her parents right after her 27th birthday. And so I wanted to start with that. I needed to tell her childhood story. I didn't want to weight the film down with historical archive of Port Arthur, but I needed to find the right balance of that. And then I had to find the right performances, and when I saw everything that existed, it became very clear to me which performances were the most important in her career, and I had to work with those.
What was it like for you to cull through all that archival footage? I know it was difficult to track some of it down, but there were some real gems there. What was that like for you?
It's like I said, the process was so up and down that sometimes it was really great and sometimes it was daunting because I'm thinking this is never going to happen, but I still have to look through all this footage and maybe I'm wasting my time, but it's for Janis, and so it was just like about the mindset. So when we finally did get all of our contracts sorted out, it was like, yes, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Her childhood was so troubled. I didn't realize just how deeply insecure she was. Was that surprising to you as well?
Well, you've probably heard the cliches and about Janis and like how they laughed me out of home, they laughed me out of the state, now I'm going home. Just that whole idea that she was she hated Port Arthur and she was always talking about that.
She was voted ugliest man on her college campus. The level of cruelty that she experienced.
It's so cruel. They treated her so terribly, but also she used all those experiences to become the Janis Joplin that we all loved. And so it's such a kind of, it's just the juxtaposition of pain and art, obviously, that's how she dealt with it. And I think that's the power of her story, because I think so many people have really, really rough adolescent years, and some don't pull out of them. And, you know, Janice found a way to channel all of that when she got on stage. And I think that's a great message for young girls who, you know, have to deal with a much worse level of kind of bullying today because of the internet. So it's like Janice can show you how to find your own truth and find the beauty inside.
What do you think propelled her, now that you've spent so much time with her? What do you think was the thing that kept her both wanting to be a success but also trying to fix that brokenness?
Well, I think she was a fighter, and I think that she believed in her emotions and her truth so much that she could bring so much passion to every performance, argument, relationship. She just brought it all on the table, and that just was kind of so refreshing in so many ways to women, especially because she just didn't have a censor in so many ways. So she was real. And how, sorry, you said, what was the other half of that question?
What propelled her to want to try and at least attempt to fix that brokenness, because she was so deeply broken?
I mean, I think everyone in their 20s is trying to fix their childhood, you know, and I think she was 27. That's the year of Saturn returns. That's the year when, you know, I think people start getting over some of the things that are haunting them. And Janice she was looking for a family everywhere she went, in her bands, in her men, you know, in her fans. It was like that she was looking for that hole needed to be filled in. She
managed to really find love, but it was fleeting. Can you tell me that story about this gentleman David? That she found in South America?
Yeah, she was at the worst low point before she went to Rio for Carnival, and she meets this man named David. She's on this beach. She's the girl from Ipanema to him. He didn't know she was Janis Joplin. He just saw this beautiful woman.
And he was a teacher.
And he was kind of a world traveler who had a teaching degree, and he saw Janis the woman. And this is the first time she's ever met somebody who fell in love with her, not because she was a singer on stage, because she was Janis Joplin the woman. And through him, she was able to get rid of heroin and just be herself and be free. And it was kind of the perfect thing that she was looking for. But I don't think she was ready to figure out how that fit into her life. So she needed to kind of dabble back when she got back to San Francisco, and she needed to kind of find a way to make it work. And you know what happens at the end. I don't want to give that away on the film, but I mean, sorry, on the show, but it's really sad.
It's really sad.
His almost participation in the end of her life is just so kind of tragic and beautiful, and it was one of the reasons I wanted to make the film. It's one of the first letters I read, actually.
This is quite a departure from your previous works. How does it compare, and what made you decide to make such a leap?
Well, like I said, I tried to get this going as my second film, so it's been in my life, you know, my whole career basically. But it's just, I'm telling a story, and that's how I look at every film that I do. I'm telling a story, and I try to find the essence and the truth in that story, and then bring it out there.
Was this easier in a way, because your previous works, again, abuse in the Catholic Church, abuse in cults, abuse of the justice system, was it clearly this is equally as weighty in a way, but not nearly as somber or tragic as some of your previous projects?
Yeah, I mean, it was more challenging in many ways, because I was relying on found footage, and I had to, you know, find the story with what existed and then add what I could in. But I also found that to be a really creative process for me, and it was very challenging, and you know, it was great.
So what's next?
Well,
you're on tour.
I'm on tour with Janis.
So you're on tour with Janis.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking a moment right now. I've been working on a narrative about a female survivor of Jonestown, which is really, I've been working on that for a few years with some producers, and we're still developing the script. But for now, I'm kind of enjoying the fact that I don't have anything like right in front of me.
Last question, favorite Janis song?
It changes so often. Because
what's it today?
Summertime is, it's such a beautiful performance, you know. She's got so much soul in that song, so yeah.
Oh, well, Amy Berg, thank you so much for being here. It's a true honor. I look forward to seeing all your future projects. Come again anytime, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Take care.